Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the David on Real Estate. And today we are on podcast number 30.
The big 3-0. The big 3-0. We should get a cake or something every time we get to a nice round number like that.
I think that's a great idea. Little cupcakes, right? To commemorate all the different milestones we hit.
I'll send you a virtual cupcake.
Thanks, Dave. But the other big number is that we have attained over 500 different listeners on the podcast as well. So it's great to see that, the news is getting out there and people are listening and they're enjoying the content.
Yeah, and the feedback, I know you get feedback too. The feedback I've been getting from, in particular, some agents that are regular listeners, like they really enjoy it, and they look to see what we're talking about. Not always on for the whole show, whatever, but and some stuff they go back and listen to, some of the content in extra time because they want to make sure they got it right, and they're finding it educational and entertaining to some degree. So that's great, because that was the whole plan when we started this. Let's raise the bar in our industry to some extent and keep discussions going. And we welcome everybody's feedback. I mean, listen, you got an idea you want to bring to us for a topic or a comment, or you want to come on as a guest, please contact us. We're happy to open this up to people, right?
Yeah, and we're always looking to connect with, great people in the industry, people that care about the real estate industry, people that, want to stay on top of all the latest and newest trends, people that have products that support realtors. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. And, we want to know how you're making a difference. And, both David and I, we're very accessible. We're going to put our contact information down below so you can get in touch with us easily. But I know David responds to his emails at all different times of the night. Yesterday, I emailed you around midnight and I got a response back in, I think it was 3 minutes flat. So, it's easy to connect with us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and I was had a discussion with one of your agents last night who called me around 8 o'clock or so with a client, because we reviewed a status certificate on a rush, so we can go in today with a preemptive with an unconditional offer, and had some questions on issues that came up in the status certificate, just interpretation and everything. And he gets to when anyways, it was he was so appreciative that I actually took the call. And the client was really appreciative, but we can't always. We try and do it as much as we can. And if I couldn't, I would have got another one of our lawyers to do it. But you guys are working at nights and evenings and weekends, and we're trying to be there when you need us to support you too. So we do what we can. But I think that's the nature of our business.
No, absolutely, David. And it's making such a big difference. I mean, I'm hearing from my realtors. There's another realtor that recently got her license, and you guys were able to review a status on a rush for her as well. And she submitted a bully offer last week, and she was actually successful in getting the offer accepted. And the reason the listing agent worked with her offer is because your office was able to review the status certificate, and she was able to go in with absolutely no conditions. So it's making a huge difference, not only to our realtors but to their clients. And it's resulting in the fact that our realtors have an advantage, right? So it's a great teamwork and a great partnership, and your office has been absolutely instrumental. And I hope that realtors take advantage. I know it's not always possible, but it does make a big difference in this market when you're able to go in strong with no conditions, and it gives the buyer the extra confidence that they're buying the right unit, that there is no surprises. It lets them feel a little bit better about competing.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate the feedback, and it's so important from a buyer's point of view. Like, we would just hate for a buyer to go in blindly and commit to one of these major transactions in their lifetime, and they just bought a condo that's got all kinds of problems because they weren't able to check it out properly, or like we've talked on previous podcasts, going in without any inspection on a property because they didn't get an opportunity to do a pre-inspection. it's really risky. So occasionally you might get lucky, but that's not what an agent wants to say to their client. Well, maybe we'll get lucky and there'll be no issues, right? It's not the right way to do it. So we can't counsel them to do that as lawyers, and you guys as real estate agents can't. And we got to try and do whatever we can do. And it's tough in this market. It's, we're going to talk about, market conditions and market outlook, but we're in a tough market. It's hard to be a real estate agent right now. It's hard to be a buyer right now, because you're up against it with such a low supply and the pressure on you on these bidding wars. It's hard.
And there's tons of pressure, David. I think you nailed the nail on the head. I mean, these buyers are competing. They're submitting countless offers. They're submitting one offer, they're losing. They're submitting another offer, they're losing. They're submitting a third offer, they're losing. Right. So the frustration is really mounting, and the anxiety is mounting too. And it's so important to keep a level head, keep your emotions in check, and make sure that at every step of the way you are protecting the best interests of your clients, and reviewing status. Absolutely instrumental. I know we've talked about this a lot in the previous podcast, but it's so important to keep reiterating the fact that status needs to be reviewed at all costs. We need to look at it. It's such a substantial document. There's so many different parts to it. It's fundamentally important to protect a buyer buying a condominium product. Not only are they buying their unit, right, but they're also buying into the building and the health of the building, the financial health, the structural health, what kind of rules, something as simple, are pets permitted? Does the building permit short-term rentals? So important in affecting value and affecting the enjoyment of the person that's buying the unit.
Yeah, and there's always two parts that we're looking at. One is things that are affecting that particular unit that you're buying. Is there anything outstanding against that? Are there any issues? And the other is the overall health of the building as a whole, the financial health, and that's an important consideration. And the one we did last night, there was an issue because there was a Section 98 agreement referred to, and some people are that haven't bought condos or in the business don't understand what that is. But it's basically, if you want to make a change to your dwelling unit, usually you have to get approval of the condominium corporation to do certain changes, renovations to it. And once they approve it, you enter into an agreement, which is Section 98 of the Condominium Act. So it's called a Section 98 agreement. And so when you do a status certificate, it says there is a Section 98 agreement or there's no Section 98 agreement. And if there is one, that's great because it's approved, but it's approved certain improvements. So you see what improvements they've actually approved. If you look around, you see there's other improvements and there's no Section 98, then as an agent, you got to, that's got to raise some red flags too, because it may not have been an approved thing. So it's a pretty important thing to look for and to understand and advise your client on. So, and you can't do that without reviewing a status certificate.
Yeah, it's a big deal because the condo corp can come at any point and mandate certain things be remediated or changed or proved to be in compliance, right? And the reason they have this is because they don't want somebody to use materials that transfer noise or will be a hindrance to other residents in the building. So something as simple as, when you're replacing flooring, the flooring has to be of a certain quality and a certain noise barrier. And the condo corp wants to be involved in making sure that you select the right materials so that you don't hinder the enjoyment of the unit below or above, right? Same when you're doing plumbing, same when you're doing electrical. If you use the wrong electrical products and then that causes a fire, that not only affects your unit, but it affects the building and everybody that's living around you. So the condominium board plays a very important role in making sure that the building is safe and the right materials are used so that everybody enjoys the environment that they're living in.
I had one years ago where the condominium corporation had put a lien on a property that our client was in the process of buying because the homeowner put tiles down on their balcony. Okay. And the balcony, it was about the size of my desk. Okay. But they put tiles down without getting it approved. Somebody from the condominium happened to come in, happened to see it, and all of a sudden they demand that it be replaced or removed because there was no engineering study done to make sure that the weight from that was fine and it wouldn't affect the integrity of the balcony itself, etc. And if a balcony goes down on the 20th floor, it's taken down all the balconies and the people below it, right? So you can understand it from a certain point of view. Like, it makes sense. There's a weight limit, and you have to get things approved. But I'm telling you, this balcony was the size of my desk. There was an order against it, a lien against them for a few $1,000s to get it removed. The lawyer for the condominium corporation was charging about $15,000 dealing with this thing, and it just kept growing and growing. And they had to, in order to get it, they have to remove it or get an engineering study to approve it, and then you have to pay for an engineer, and the cost of doing that, it was like unbelievable. And they said, look, we have certain materials that are pre-approved. If you would have just put an indoor-outdoor carpet on it, you would have been fine. We have some other tiles that we've pre-approved. You could have put this down, no problem. But you didn't ask. You didn't say anything. You went down and got these heavy tiles. We think they're heavy. We don't even know, but we think we got an issue. And all of a sudden, there's $15,000, $20,000 in costs being spent to try and get this resolved. It was like a nightmare. So you never know what you're going to get into.
It makes sense, David. Like, the engineering report and the weight is one thing, but what if somebody goes outside and it's wet or there's snow and they slip and they hit their head and now they're suing the condo corp or the building? I mean, these issues, they seem minuscule in nature, but they can turn into, dangerous situations. And, the building has an active role in preventing and maintaining and making sure that the actual structure is not damaged, right? Like, once you put tiles down, even when you remove them, there's an element of damage to the existing building that,
Right.
No matter what you do, can't be repaired, right?
Yeah.
So, everybody kind of wants to work together and make sure that, the building's there for 100 years, that it's well maintained, that it's well looked after, that, it looks uniform when you're looking from it from a highway or you're driving by. Like, it all adds to protecting the value of that building.
Yeah. And sometimes it's as simple as window coverings. Certain window coverings from the outside are permitted and certain aren't. And it's just the way the building looks from the outside to some degree. Some of it's the way the window coverings keep the heat in or keep the cold out or things like that. So a lot of times there's reasons behind some of these rules and regulations, but you have to know what they are. And the beauty of the Section 98 is that it's actually approving certain things to be done. They come and check, make sure it's done properly. And then the owner is saying, as part of the agreement, I'll do it at my cost, but I also have an obligation as the owner to maintain it going forward. My responsibility to maintain it. If it has to be replaced or fixed or whatever, it's my obligation. And I indemnify the condominium corporation. So if something happens or there's an issue, it's the homeowner's responsibility and not the condominium corporation. So anyways, it's an important thing to note. And anytime you're reviewing a status certificate as an agent or something, and you should look for that clause in the status that says there aren't any Section 98 agreements, or there are, and then there'll be a copy to look at. And even when there aren't, sometimes you as an agent have to say, well, that's strange that there isn't one, because I'm pretty sure there was a renovation here. This used to be a 3-bedroom condo, and now it's a 2-bedroom condo. Someone took down a wall. So if you know that or have information of that, then something's up and you got to be looking into it, because they may have unlawfully done it without approval. And now if your client buys that and then the condominium corporation becomes aware of it, now they've got to deal with a lien and deal with that issue.
And it becomes a huge headache. Like, I mean, a lot of these renovations after the fact, it's really hard to prove that you use the right materials, right? Because, once the flooring is down, I mean, you might have to lift the flooring. In a house, there's usually vents, so you can lift the vent and kind of look and see what the flooring is made of. In a condominium, it's, there usually aren't any vents in the floor. They're usually in the walls or the ceiling. So, it's, you spent a lot of money in a unit, you're moving in, you want it to be a good experience, and now you're dealing with something that it wasn't really your fault, that you just kind of walked into. And then that's probably one of the worst situations for a buyer to experience. So as an agent, you have to check these Section 98 agreements. that agreement goes right into the status certificate and it stays with the unit. And like David said, if you're showing an older condo that's been substantially renovated and there is no Section 98 agreement, that should be raising a lot of red flags and you should be asking questions. Now, David, what can a realtor do in that situation if they are showing a unit, but he loves it, it's an older building, some walls were taken out, it's being made into a little bit of an open concept, there is no Section 98 agreement. What should an agent do in that situation?
Well, they should be asking those questions like, when was it done and was it approved? You have evidence that the condominium corporation approved it, because maybe they had some other approval letter, but they didn't formally do a Section 98 agreement. But you'd want to have some evidence that the condominium corporation knew about it and approved it. When it's a substantial renovation, it's sort of hard to believe that they wouldn't know about it. The trades would be walking in and out of there for quite a period of time, doing something. So someone would know there's something going on. So it's possible, and that happens in some situations where, for some reason, they didn't do a formal Section 98 agreement, but there was some approval by the board of plans, and they didn't do it in a proper agreement, but there was an exchange of correspondence or something that was approved. So at least you have that. You can always get that turned into a Section 98 agreement, because it's been pre-approved or something, or it might be something that existed, it was so far back that it was sort of grandfathered and happened before there was a requirement for those agreements. So, but I would definitely look into it and ask those questions. Otherwise, you don't know. Now, it might be that it's been like that. The renovation was 20 years ago. No one's had an issue. No one's had a problem. And they just say, fine, we're going to live with it. It's been good so far. But if something does break down, and it turns out, that the homeowner's responsible because there's something there that shouldn't have been there, that's a risk they're taking. You buy it, you're inheriting that risk.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I bought for one of my clients a condo in an older building. It was substantially renovated, and no permissions were obtained from the condo corp. So we actually did a whole $1,000 until the Section 98 approvals could be obtained. But it was, a big headache dealing with the condo corp for the buyers and for the sellers, right? Because the sellers were now not the owners anymore, so the condo corp didn't want to deal with them. The buyers had no idea about any of the renovations of what was done, so it turned into a really difficult situation.
It is, and and you can certainly do it after the fact, which I would encourage anybody to do. But you're right; it's a hard, difficult situation for you to deal with, because the condominium corporation is generally not going to sign off on it until they get an engineer or an architect to go in and inspect it and look around and try and provide some sort of certificate or confirmation that everything that they complies with building code and it doesn't affect the integrity of the structure and things like that. Because they're not just going to sign off and walk in there. You're an elected board member. You're going to go and say, yeah, looks good to me. Like, doesn't happen that way. They're not going to sign off on anything until they get professionals looking at it, inspecting it, and sign off. And once you get inspectors going in and professionals going in, they often, as they find something.
Yeah.
Even if it was built right 10 years ago, maybe it's time to be redone because it's not holding up anymore, right? So they always find something, and you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. You also have to be careful what trades you hire when you're doing these condo renovations, because the rules are different when it comes to plumbing, when it comes to electrical in a condo building, as opposed to regular residential renovations as well. There's different products that have to be used. There's, because again, they're protecting the integrity of not only your unit, but the whole building and people below you, people beside you as well, right? So a word of caution when you are hiring, deal with professionals that have experience and know about condominiums, because, the rules are very different.
Yep. And like you said, differs from condo to condo. Even, a lot of units have self-contained HVAC type of systems. And some of them have heat pumps, and some of them have other type systems. You have to have the right system for the right building that's approved for that building, and because it affects the airflow to other units and things like that. So, you can't just do exactly what you want when you're in a building like that. You've got to make sure you're complying with what's approved for the building. So, get the right professionals involved, and make sure you're not sure, get in touch with the management office, the condominium corporation, and check things out. So I know that's not what we were planned to talk about, but it's sort of an offshoot of market conditions because of the pressure on agents these days to go in with these unconditional offers. And I know you've got some interesting reports to share with us today about what TREB has found in terms of market conditions. So we should probably get into that.
Yeah, David, and you're absolutely right. The conditions out there are difficult for buyers and for agents. TREB is the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, one of the largest organized boards in the world. And they came up with their 2021 year in review and 2022 outlook report. And it's something that I wanted to share with everybody because it's filled with a lot of great information. Table of contents, message from the president, executive summary. Then they jump into their 2022 outlook. We're also going to talk about 2021 numbers and a look back at some of the biggest trends. A lot of conversation about the condo market and also about new home sales, so pre-construction and what those numbers. And then they talk about commercial. They talk about some of the trends they're seeing in the industry in terms of people working from home, people moving away from the core of the city, more into a suburb environment. And they also have some letters from some local politicians talking about their views on the market.
Yeah, an interesting report. Lots of good information and interesting the way they project forward what they're expecting for this year. So some good information in here.
Yeah, there really is. And I mean, they've hired some really reputable companies to do some surveying as well. And, one of the measures, and, this is something that people really don't talk about, but a key indicator to what's going to happen in the future is really looking at consumer confidence. And consumer confidence is one of those metrics that's really hard to measure because it's so subjective, right? But it's pretty clear that consumers are confident about our market. Demand has never been stronger. We're still seeing low supply levels, but consumer confidence is definitely moving in the right direction. So let's jump into the market outlook. So what the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board is predicting is a 12% price increase from 2021. So they say that the average price for all types of homes in 2021 is $1,090,000, rounded to the nearest thousand. And they're projecting 12% increase from that price. So the new average price across all home types, according to TREB, will be $1,225,000. So an average increasing about $135,000 per property type. Now, if we break that number down, David, they're basically saying that the average person is going to make an average of over $10,000 a month on their real estate home in 2022. So any home you have across all different property types, as long as you stay in your home, you're going to make an average, over $10,000 a month.
Yeah, that's really something when and that's on top of what you did last year and the year before, right? 100%. So it's, when people talk about real estate being a good investment, how is it not a good investment? It's always a good investment. The biggest problem is for people trying to jump into the market for the first time, right? But once they're in, then they're getting these type of appreciation in values right now. So that's pretty remarkable. Like, where other type of investment can you get that kind of return on right now?
Yeah, and I mean, this really goes to the heart of our supply issue, right? Because if people know that on average they're going to make $10,000 a month, and I mean, we're talking about $10,000 across every single housing type, right? Whether you have a condo, whether you have a semi, whether you have a detached home. I mean, this is the average increase for the average person, right? So, this is part of the issue. People know that they're going to make money in their real estate. So why would they sell it? Why would they sell their rental properties? Why would they sell any type of properties? If I'm on average going to make, $11,000 a month on my real estate products, why am I going to sell anything I own? I'm just going to keep it and I'm going to let it appreciate. The other key statistic that TREB talks about is a dip in transactions in 2022. So in 2021, basically they're saying that there is going to be a dip from 2021 in terms of how many transaction is going to happen in the market.
Yeah, that's not a surprising prediction, like to me, just because everybody's always talking about when was the peak and when is the peak, and at some point there's a peak and it just can't, the market can't sustain itself at those levels. So if that just means we hit a peak last year, and so they're expecting we're not going to be able to continue that, so the number of transactions is going to drop for a bunch of factors. One, just because it peaked. Another is like what you're pointing out, like when everybody's thinking the value is just going to go up, there isn't as much incentive to sell. It brings certain people out of the market of putting their property up for sale.
Yeah, absolutely. They also talk about the rental market, and they talk about immigration and the fact that supply is going to remain tight, but demand is going to keep rising, and the average rental rates are going to go up. So here they talk about 2021. Right, we experienced several record-breaking months, these are their takeaways. So an average price of $1,095,000, which was up 17.8% from 2020. They're talking about a strong resurgence in the condo sales in Toronto, and I mean, we're seeing that in a big way. Condo sales are up drastically. Total home sales reached 121,000, exceeding the previous record set in 2016, also up 95,000 sales, which were reported in 2020. So quite a jump in number of transactions.
Yeah, it was quite a jump. And again, you're looking year over year. Last year compared to the year prior, which was when we entered into COVID conditions, and that sort of delayed market, for probably 5-6 months, where there was still activity, but there was a reluctance of people to be on the market. So you got to look at what you're comparing to as well. So I guess these numbers really aren't surprising. But you look at that average price, which was 17.8% in that year, plus what happened last year, plus what they're projecting for this year, like that's a significant increase in value.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, a lot of the transactions were fueled in the pre-construction market and new home sales, right? So pre-construction transactions for new condominiums, apartments soared. And the city of Toronto and Durham region led the way for pre-construction sales.
Yeah, and pre-construction is still pretty strong. We're reviewing agreements of purchase and sale constantly on pre-construction, and these are it's 3 to 5 years down the road for closings on these things, but there's lots of activity in that market. Very busy market, lots of projects all around the GTA going up. So I think that'll continue to be a strong market.
Right. And I give TREB a lot of credit for doing things like this. So I mean, they spend a lot of money on research. So here they hired Mara Public Opinion, and they're kind of talking to business executives and workers to see what the new normal may look like. And these are the things. So there is a need for hybrid or flexible post-COVID working arrangements. Employees will find it difficult to return to the office on a full-time basis. downtown core offices may not need to accommodate as many people as before COVID as a result of the continued working from home. And policies will need to balance the desire to keep working from home and also making use of the office.
And I find that interesting because, I was really concerned with, what's going to be post pandemic. People are used to working from home now, and in certain industries, like you're able to. So it's, maybe that's a discovery for your type of business and everything. But so how is that going to affect office buildings, and what's going to happen on renewals when people come up? Are they going to want as much space? Are they going to need any space? Are owners of office buildings going to really be in trouble? But as it happens, I do a lot of legal work for owners of office space. I do a lot of office leasing, and it's going like gangbusters with them. There's still a big, strong demand for it. Now, yeah, there's some tenants that got in trouble, left. Some, wanted less space, but there's still a demand for office space. They're configuring the space a little bit differently, but there's still a demand for office space. Most businesses expect to get their workers back in the office, and they still want them in there. So sometimes you can't predict the effect these things are going to have, but people still will want to get back to work and use office space. Space might be a little different, but it'll still be used. We're not going to have all these vacancies that at one point was predicted.
David, are you finding that companies are looking for smaller but more flexible space as opposed to larger spaces when they're renting?
Well, sometimes they're not necessarily taking smaller space, but they're configuring it a little bit differently because common areas are bigger. The actual offices that people are in are smaller. So they're just configuring them a little bit differently. More common space, more like lunchroom space or a workout area or meeting spaces. They use the space more for that and less for the traditional offices. If you look back years ago when someone was renting space, it was like, oh, everybody needs their own private office, and you're putting up all these walls and everything. And then it sort of went to more of the open concept. And I think you're seeing that, but now open concept's not always a great thing because we don't want everybody in the same room working, because if you run into another pandemic or something, we want people a little more spread out and isolated. So they're figuring it out. They're just using the space differently, but the overall space that they're taking seems to be the same. And in some cases, more of a demand because they want people to be more spread out, and they want to have bigger common areas for meetings or for lunches or for wherever they're doing. So they're still using the space. They're just using it differently.
Gotcha. I mean, I know your office has some experience with working from home. Do you find that staff is as productive working from home as they are when they're in the office?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something we look at all the time. And fortunately in our office, I think the answer is yes, for the most part. Like we've had, when this started, we had everybody with the capability of working from home. We want to get everybody set up, and we were able to because we were way ahead of the game. Before the pandemic hit, we were already gone, made huge strides to go paperless, and everything was accessible electronically. So we're able to do that. And then the question is, okay, if we send everybody home, how productive are they going to be? They got their kids running around. They got other distractions at home. We're not over their shoulder. We're not walking by their desk. You don't have bosses coming by to do that. But that wasn't the way we were sort of operating in our office. That wasn't the climate anyways. I was never going around to everybody and saying, hey, what are you working on right now? Or let me see this. Like, that wasn't the atmosphere that we really wanted or created in our office anyways. We hired like really, really good people and that are professional, and they take pride in their work and like to deal with their clients, and we trust them to do their job. And I know pretty quickly when someone is not getting their job done or falling behind on something. So we're able to let people work from home pretty comfortably. And a lot of people are rotating in, and some are more comfortable working from home, some are less comfortable. We have some that come in 5 days a week because they're just not productive at home. So they've chosen they want to be in every day. So we try and listen to our people and trust them to do their jobs. And, and I'd say, 95% of them are as productive as they would have been in the office. We've had a couple situations where people weren't as productive because there was extenuating circumstances going on at home with elderly parents or dealing with their young kids and things like that. But you got to hire good people, and which is what we do, and we trust them to get their job done.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if you hire the right people, you have the right systems in place, then it's a great solution. I think there's a lot of employers out there that in different industries where, I mean, in the real estate industry, if there's a closing, there's a deadline, and certain things have to happen. And if certain things don't happen, the closing doesn't happen, and everything comes to a standstill, right?
Right.
In other industries that don't have such hard deadlines, it's a little bit harder to keep people accountable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those trends that we're going to have to monitor over the years, and then see how employers sort of adapt and react, and what tools they implement to help employees manage their time better, and hold them accountable, and contribute to the working environment. But it's going to be an interesting trend to keep an eye on over the years, for sure, and how it affects our commercial space.
Yeah, and some businesses can react better to this and adapt better than others. Like if you're a young married couple with young school-age kids right now, like I feel for you. It's really hard what you've been going through for the last 2 years, because your kids are in school, then they're home from school, and then someone's got a runny nose, the kid's got to stay home from school all of a sudden, and you got two working parents. They can't stay home by themselves. You can't invite in the grandparents sometimes to look after the kids because it's not COVID safe for them to do it. So a parent has to stay home with their kids, but they have to work. So if they're in an industry where they can't work comfortably from home, then how productive are they going to be? So I think any business owner does themselves a service to try and set themselves up. So when you're in that situation, someone has to stay home. Well, at least they can have their computer at home, and maybe they don't get an 8-hour productive day between 9 and 5 done. Maybe they only get 5 or 6 hours of work done because they're distracted by their kids or whatever's going on at home. But they can always make it up afterwards, and the kids go to bed if they have an ability to do it then. But even those 5 or 6 hours instead of 8 hours might be better for the business than to them saying, no, I got to take a sick day, or I got to take the whole day off. Right. So, I'd rather have everybody capable of working from home. And so they have to go home or have to work from home because they're not feeling well, or they've got a symptom, they can work from home. If they have to go pick up their kid from school, they can still work from home and be as productive as you can be. And I know some people in industries and businesses that just refuse to let people work from home and don't set them up. And I think it's to their own detriment.
Well, I think if you're an employer and you don't have that level of trust with your employees, then you have the wrong employees.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's that
you've
simple,
got the wrong climate in your office.
Yeah.
And it's hard to micromanage what everybody's doing. I certainly don't want to micromanage. I want to hire the best lawyers we can find, and the best clerks we can find, and the best accounting people, and the best office manager, and the best receptionist. And I want everybody to do their job and take pride in their job and do it, and trust you to do it. If you have a problem, or you need to run something by me or Jonathan or Sharon, our office manager, great, we're there for you. But otherwise, go do your job. We trust you to do it.
Yeah, and this ties into our next topic, which is, really what's going to be driving our 2022 market. And TREB, again, I give them a lot of credit. They've done a really nice job and discussing some of these trends. But the number one thing that they're discussing here is the labor market, right? And they're talking about the fact that there's a lot of really high quality jobs being created in 2022 in the marketplace. And these quality jobs are average to above average income levels for people, which again, if you have a job and if you have income, then you're able to pay your mortgage, and you're able to qualify for some of these higher priced housing products out there.
Yeah. So there are jobs out there. There's good jobs. One of the good, well-paying jobs out there is being a real estate agent. Even right now, it's a slower market. You're doing less transactions, but as maybe you'll explain it better than I can. You're on a commission as the price of these homes increase, and you go up 17% year over year, and you go up another 12% the next year. You're getting a commission on those increases too. So your commissions are going up per transaction just because the value of the homes are going up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, your commissions are in line with the with the market increases, but I always say to customers, it's very much a two-way relationship, right? Consumers are making, on average, you just talked about this $11,000 a month and increase in their average home, and a lot of that can be attributed to the hard work of realtors. And I'm not just saying, this one transaction, but I'm saying, in the last 100, right? The fact that we have such a strong board like the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, the fact that they are probably one of the most professional boards in the world. They really pay attention. They pay attention to trends. They train the realtors, and realtors work hard. They give up their evenings, they give up their weekends, and they work hard to bring a lot of value to the table. And a lot of the realtors are a driving force when it comes to these appreciation rates that we're seeing. So yes, realtors get remunerated in conjunction to house prices, but they're also a key member of clients' team and helping drive these values.
Yeah, and they're giving the homeowners lots of great advice and tips on how to increase the value of their homes, by making improvements to them, by encouraging to make improvements to get the curb appeal better. Like there's real dollars that go into doing that. Usually it pays off, but there's still an improvement that was done, instead of people just saying, oh, I'm going to be selling anyway, so I'm not going to fix this place up. No, there's value in improving the cosmetics of your house and improving the mechanics of your house. So spend the money, renovate, make those improvements. No matter what you spend on it, you're going to get that back in the increased value in your house. First of all, while you're living there, you're going to enjoy it more. But then when you do sell it, you're actually going to get all that money back in the value that you're putting into it. So, real estate agents are integral to pushing these values up by what they're telling the clients to do.
Yeah, and the value that they bring to the table, 100%. Dave, the other key driver that they really talk about, and this is something that I talk a lot about in my office and with my agents, is our immigration policy, right? And over the years, our immigration has been a fundamental reason and driver for real estate prices, and a lot of it goes to the fact that we have a point system of how we determine who we let into our country. So it's not like the United States, which is first come first serve. We have a point system. So people that have a higher education, people that are entrepreneurs, people that are professionals like doctors, engineers, these are the people that we let into our country first. Right. And these people are usually, upper middle class. They come with money. They come with a great education. And these people believe in real estate. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're highly educated people. They're coming here for a reason from other countries with great intentions. And I deal with them a lot. And I'm surprised all the time because it's hard. It's a struggle. You've got people that are professionals in other countries, a doctor coming from another country, and they come here and they can't practice as a doctor, and they're working in all of a sudden they're a financial manager at TD Bank, and I'm going, wait a second, you're a doctor, you're a surgeon, and yeah, but it'll be years before I can do that. Like they're making tremendous personal sacrifices because there's something better about Canada than where they were. They're in one country, they're a respected surgeon, and now they're here and they're an assistant manager at a bank, biding time till they can get qualified again to do it. Like it's a difference in remuneration. There's a difference in prestige and in everything, but they're making that choice for good reason, because Canada's better than where they were. So they're happy to be here. They want to get here. They want to buy a home. They want to put their roots down deep. They want to raise a family here because it's a better opportunity overall. Same with lawyers. We get resumes in all the time from people that were, practicing lawyers in other countries with years and years of experience, and they come here and they're starting all over. Our laws are different. They got to get proper accreditations from the law school here to do it, but they're starting completely over. So they're highly motivated. They're going to add value to our overall country. They're excited to be here. They're excited to raise their families here.
Yeah, and they might not be able to practice medicine, and the engineer might not have his stamp, right? And they might have to go to school to get some of those accreditations. But as they're doing that, they're also buying real estate from day one, because that's something that they can do, right?
Right, because they're generally coming in with some money. They're not being allowed in based on the point system if they don't have something to come in with, the way our system is set up right now.
Right. I mean, the government doesn't want to allow people to come in that they're going to have to support, and they're going to go on welfare and use some of the social services that we have on day one, even though the Liberal government, lets in some of those people too. And I mean, I totally agree with the policy. I mean,
there's always an element of refugee claims that can come in, but that's not, it's not the refugees that are driving the immigration. There's an element of refugees. We're available to react when there's a need to let refugees in, but the overall immigration policy, regardless of Liberal or Conservatives over the years, it's still, we're allowing people in based on these point systems that are bringing something positive to Canada.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to do this, David. I mean, our birth rate has never been lower, right? I mean, Canadians are not having kids at the same rates. Families are not, I know you have 6 grandkids, right? that is not a normal situation in most families, right? Most Canadian families. So, we have to turn to immigration to make sure that our taxes are low, right? Because I mean, the more people there is in the country, and the more that burden is spread over a bigger source of people, the less that each person gets impacted, right? And think about how much the government has spent in the last 2 years on COVID measures. Future generations are going to have to repay some of that debt, right? So I know that the Liberal government has already projected that we're going to have record number of new immigrants coming. I think when you combine that with the fact that we have a point system, this is going to be a major driver of our real estate prices in the years to come.
Yeah, no, I agree, and you're right. I always think that you're the norm and not the exception, and the fact that I have 6 grandchildren at my age makes I thought I was the norm, but it turns out that I'm the exception. And and I have some friends in the same situation, which is great and everything, but the reality is I'm more the exception than the norm the way things are right now. And I had a first cousin that called me last week because I had my 6th grandchild born last week, so a cousin called me to to say congratulations on it, and he says to me, like, you're in the lead. I said, what do you mean I'm in the lead? He says, you have more grandchildren than any of the cousins of our age group. I'm not the old, I'm closer to the youngest amongst them as opposed to the old. I never thought of it that way. And then he said, yeah, like, because this one only has 1 and this one has 2, and this one, and nobody's even close. On one side of my family, I've got 5 first cousins, and I think the other side of my family, I've got 6 or 7 first cousins. Nobody else is anywhere near that. Everybody's got 1 or 2 grandchildren, and might peak at 3 or 4. Like, and I thought, oh, everybody's going to have 6 or more, but it's not like that anymore.
Yeah. So the other key driver that they're talking about is normalization in per capita home sales, and they're saying that this is going to have a negative impact. And basically what they're saying here is that during the pandemic, a lot of people have have had some savings. They weren't commuting, they weren't spending as much, they weren't going out to restaurants. So people were able to save a little bit, which propelled them to actually get into the market and either, buy that dream home or move out away from the core city and trend and basically accelerate their housing plans a little bit quicker. And they're saying that this is going to cause a slowdown because people have already taken advantage of these trends in the second half of the pandemic. But they are saying at the end, they added a little line that it is going to be mitigated by the fact that they're expecting an increase in population growth due to a resurgence in immigration. That's an interesting trend that they're observing.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah,
I guess they're right. Like there's been a forced savings for some people because we couldn't go to restaurants, we couldn't go on holidays. There's some big chunks of spending that didn't happen. On the other hand, people were spending money differently. They were spending more money probably on home improvements and things around the house. So, but that's adding value to their real estate.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to one of my next door neighbors, and I was shocked. And I mean, he told me that he saved 6 figures just by avoiding going to restaurants during the pandemic, which is mind-boggling. Like if you're spending 6 figures on restaurant outings, but I mean, some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of available cash flow to invest and to be able to put towards real estate.
Yeah, no, I'm sure for some people it's significant. We've got some friends that typical week would be out 4 to 5 nights a week at a restaurant. Okay, having nice dinners, like not just going for a burger somewhere, but I'm talking about like really going and having a couple drinks with friends, having a nice meal, and it's 4 to 5 nights a week, and they've struggled. It's a big lifestyle change for them during the pandemic to start cooking again and ordering in. It's not the same, but I can imagine they probably spend 6 figures.
They do, and they might not realize it, but I mean, the average dinner is $150 per night for 2 people, with a couple drinks. Times 4, that's $600 a week, right? Times 4 weeks in a month, that's $2,400 a month. I mean, it adds up really quickly.
Yep. So
higher borrowing cost is going to have a negative effect. So I mean, we know that inflation is at all-time high. We know costs are rising, and we also know that the Bank of Canada has signaled that there are going to be some increases in the rates. This is going to be a really interesting year when it comes to that, because a lot of people have, there were 2 announcements already this year, one in January, one in February, and both times the Bank of Canada has held rates. With this freedom protest that's happening in Ottawa and the instability in our political world, there's downward pressure on our government to not make any policy changes that are not popular and that are going to adversely affect the people. But I mean, I think this is one of those situations where their hands are tied, inflation is rising, and they're going to have to do something to lower that number. I just don't know if it's going to happen in March, which is the next scheduled announcement, is March the 2nd, or if they're going to wait a little bit to raise those borrowing. What are your thoughts, David?
Well, look, we talked about it last week. There's real issues with the supply chain, right? You want to try and get a car, you can't just go get a car. You walk into any dealership right now, they have 0 new cars in their showroom. They can't even show you something. They don't have demonstrators. They've got no new cars. Doesn't matter what kind of car you're in the market for. Nobody has any because they can't get them in. If you order a car, you're looking at 4 to 6 month delivery. There's serious supply chain issues in many industries. That's just one example. With these, freedom protesters, it's a protest on the one hand, the other hand, it's a blockade, and it's blocking the supply chain. And that's going to factor into all kinds of things. And the supplies, not just food and clothing, but other car parts, again, supplies needed for housing and renovations and everything. Like, we got some serious issues in the world right now with the supply chain. So that's driving inflation. That doesn't help any of us. And it's going to affect lifestyle too, because we can't get certain products when we would like to have those products. So and I think that's going to put pressure on the lenders and the government to at least keep the interest rates down a little bit, because that's just going to slow things up even more. Yep. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure. So if there's increases, I think they're going to be slow and gradual and marginal, and nothing in big chunks, because there's too many other factors going on.
Yeah, and I think if you send a message to the marketplace that rates are going up, I think that kind of does its purpose in its own way, because it sends a message that, hey, if you're thinking of selling, in the back of your head, buying, in the back of your head, you have to think that your cost of that mortgage is going to go up, right? So think twice before you, and make sure you can afford it. So I mean, even by sending that message without actually raising rates, they're already impacting demand.
Right. So it sort of pushes buyers that are thinking of going in 2022 at some point. So, I'm going to wait till the spring or the fall. Well, maybe we got to move right now, because we'd rather lock in with interest rates the way they are right now. Unfortunately, they get out there and they run into this supply problem that we have. There isn't enough to buy. Yeah.
And then the other key driver that they talk about is lack of inventory, right? So they talk about record low level of inventory, 3,232, down almost 60% compared with December of 2020. Right, and this has really been the story of 2021, is lack of inventory on the market.
Right, which is what drives up these prices and the bidding wars.
Well, again, David, let's go back to that average appreciation of $11,000 a month. Like, I mean, I don't want to sell any of my properties if I'm making $11,000 a month each. I mean, I might as well go sit on the beach and, drink a margarita and go play some tennis and, let my properties do the heavy lifting for me. And, that's really been the trend in our real estate market. If you sold a house in the last 15 years, you made the biggest mistake of your life.
Right. But on the other hand, if you're in a position to buy another property, right, and get in and get it done, and then you get the benefit of the appreciation on that too. So if you can buy, like what you talk about all the time, if you can put that together or with others and buy that investment property with somebody, or that second property or that third property, if you have an ability or find a way to do that, then it's to your advantage, because you're going to get the benefit of this.
Right. The really good page here talking about buyer intentions. I'm not going to go through it, but they basically break down different categories. How likely is a buyer to buy? Very likely. And then they talk about percentage of how many people are going to jump into the market. They talk about first-time home buyers as well. And what their likelihood is of them coming into the market. And I mean, a lot of these things are pretty self-explanatory. We know as prices are increasing, that the probability of first-time home buyers entering the market is slightly decreasing because of the affordability factor. But really good information on these slides as well that I encourage everybody to read. And then we have a little bit on the rental market. Right, and again, there's upward on the rental market, and a lot of it is to do with the vacancy rates dipping in 2021 and immigration going up. In 2020 we had no immigration, like immigration was completely suspended, and there was an instant cause and effect with the rental market. But now we're seeing the condo market and the rental market rebound in a big way. So here are some great numbers. 2021 year in review. So record home sales, 121,000 compared to 95,000 in 2020. New listings were up as well. Average price, again, increased quite a bit. So between 2021 and 2020, we had 17%. Remember, this year in 2022, TREB is projecting a 12% increase.
That's a 30% increase in 2 years. Pretty good return.
Pretty amazing return. Yeah. Sales up, so detached homes way up in the 905. Semi-detached is way up as well in the 905s. Lots of townhouses. And then in the 416, the big story is the sale of the condo, and it's up 51.7%. If I zoom in, that up 51.7% in the 416 area. And, you know, condo prices have really gone up in the suburbs as well. I mean, we're not talking about this because obviously, you know, the big story is the condo market in downtown Toronto, but the condo market in the suburbs is also increasing. And again, this has everything to do with affordability, right? If people can't afford, you know, the detached homes, which the average price of a detached house is way above $1.1 million, you know, they're really jumping after the condo market.
Yeah.
Right. And if we look at inventory trends, you know, in that March, April of 2020, at the height of the pandemic, we had a little bit more inventory. We had 4 months of inventory on the market. But I mean, look at the trend. The trend has been completely going down and edging downwards, right? And now we have less than 1 month of inventory on the market, which is, you know, a big issue. Right. So, you know, Toronto and York region for condo sales way up. Orangeville, you know, not really a condo community, but we're starting to see more condo buildings go up there. And Burlington has also been a big story for condominiums. You know, lots of developers. You know, there's still a little bit more land. Land is still cheaper than downtown and the core. So, you know, we're seeing a lot, you know, people are building up, and then it's becoming a much more mainstream trend as well. So here you have a breakdown of the different home types. So the detached average price is 1.5, and that's up 34%. Then this is the attached, so semi or townhouse, and that's up by 34% as well.
Yeah, which is really remarkable. You look at some of the semis that we're acting on in the heart of Toronto, on, you know, these on 20-foot lots, and, you know, and the buildings are 80 years old and they're worth $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, and they got bidding wars on them. It's really something.
Yeah, and I remember when I got my license 14 years ago, I mean, David, those houses were $250,000.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
that was considered high. Right. And now,
yeah.
you know, they 6x'd basically.
Yeah.
And, I mean, 14 years is not a long time. You know, it goes by quick. It goes by a lot quicker than you think. Right. So, people always say, you know, and I always get asked, when is the best time to buy real estate? And my response is, well, there's 2 times where, you know, you kind of have to pay attention to. The first was yesterday. Second, it's today.
Yeah.
So let's talk about immigration. And I love this chart because it really shows us, you know, what is really happening. And this chart is going to continue going up in a huge way. And this is really the story of our real estate market. But if you take a look in 2020, very, very low immigration during COVID. Not a lot of people were coming in, but that has gone 4x. We went from about 15,000 to over 60,000 people coming in. Again, a huge driver of our market, and again, because of our point system, these are extremely well respected people coming into Canada.
Yeah, it's bringing more buyers in.
Yeah. And then the other trend is the new home sales, right? And really, condominium apartments in the new home sale category were the story of 2021, because there's over a 50% jump from 2020, right? And I think they hit over 30,000 unit sales, which was only the second time in the history of our real estate market where they sold that many pre-construction units. And I think this is, again, going to be one of those trends that's going to continue going up, right? Because of our low levels of inventories, people are looking for alternatives to the resale market. And then being able to purchase these pre-construction units, is a big trend in being able to secure property and secure real estate and being able to get into the market.
Yeah, lots of cranes out there, lots of construction. They just have to be able to get them built, but they will get built over the next 3 to 5 years. And then there's always an increase in activity out there when these projects do get close to completion, because some are being bought by owner occupiers, but a lot of them are bought for investment purposes, and then they're looking to do assignments and flipping them and things like that. So that creates a flurry of activity too, because a lot of times with new construction, it's one sale from a builder, but it turns into 2 transactions, because a lot of times there's assignments on these as well.
Yeah. This is an interesting statistic. So according to the Atlas Group, the benchmark price for a new single family home was $1,680,000 in November of 2021. So just a staggering number. And again, a lot of the condo sales, the new condo sales, were driven in the 905 regions. And again, this is just one of those trends that's going to continue to explode, because land is cheaper. There's more of it available. The suburbs, want to concentrate their development, and they're approving these buildings being built in a big way. Some great research on commercial real estate as well. Not going to get into this too much, but I do encourage everybody to read through some of these as well. Right, and then they talk about the new normal, what COVID, what these shifting patterns, how are they going to impact the demand and the working environment in the real estate market.
It's funny how, we're interviewing people, we're just in the process of hiring a new lawyer, we're looking for new clerks. Anybody out there interested, please send in your resume. We're looking for some good people. But when you go through this, it's interesting one of the things that we're getting asked all the time is, people are looking to be able to work remotely, and what's your policy on working remote? Like, these are things that were never in the conversation a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of people that just want to have that as an element in their work environment right now. It's an interesting conversation that never happened 2 years ago, but people now they've done it. They're saying, can we continue to work remotely or partly remotely? And if the answer is no, they're not interested in applying.
Yeah. And as an employer, I mean, do you give them a bigger salary or do you give them more flexibility? Because one, goes hand in hand with the other, right? And
right.
retaining the best people is probably the single difference maker in your business, right? The right people will help you grow, will retain customers, will impact the culture of the company, and the wrong people will adversely affect everything. And it's really important that you retain the right people. And I always look at companies like Google, and I remember looking at the fact that they have childcare. They have, early education centers, they have dry cleaning, they have massage therapists, they have physiotherapists at work, they have ergonomic chairs, right? They have Virgin implemented a policy where they have unlimited vacation, right? It's, companies are shifting in their traditional way of thinking to retain some of these top people, right? How cool would it be to say, hey, I have unlimited vacation, right? As long as my work gets done, I can plan a trip anytime I want. And research has shown that you give people unlimited vacation, 9 times out of 10 they end up taking even less vacation, but they're really happy that they have that choice to take more vacation whenever they want to.
Yeah, it's funny how policies change with time in the workplace, because I remember when I first started and I was a young lawyer, the bigger firms in the city were hiring chefs because they can make food in-house. You don't have to go out for lunch. You don't have to take an hour and go somewhere and order a lunch or go to a lunch counter somewhere or bring it back, or actually take time and go. No, we'll make your lunch right here. You don't have to go home and have dinner. We'll make you dinner right here. Dinner on us. And there was pressure on people to not go out for lunch, not go out for have a snack, not go home for dinner, because we have the capability of cooking for you right here. You never have to leave the building, and we expect you to stay here for 16 hours a day, and you can eat here and work here. And that's the way the work environment was in those days. And there was tremendous pressure on people to not go home. I remember the place I articled at, it was, Thursday nights, a couple partners like to stay late, and everybody, if there was pressure on everybody else to stay Thursday nights, and we're ordering in and send out an articling student to go pick up dinner for everybody, and everybody would eat dinner in the boardroom at about 7 o'clock, and then you get back to work until 11 or 12. And that was the environment that was created. So we've come a long way from that.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell us that they offered you vacation time in minutes or hours.
There's no such thing as, there was a lot of pressure to forgo your vacation time.
Of course, yeah. But, these trends are going to keep emerging, and employers are going to fight for, key personnel. And, right now, there's a lot of talk and a lot of fighting going on between Keller Williams and eXp Realty for retaining the top executives. And those executives are shuffling between one and the other company. And, there's people make a big difference, to the bottom line of some of these big companies. And, these policies may make a big difference. I wanted to point out, there's a QR code at the bottom of this page, and it says read the research. And I think it's so important for realtors to actually, really take time, read through this, and not only to read through this, but read some of the extra research that's provided. It's going to give you an advantage. It's going to give you conversation points with your clients. It's going to give you stuff to post on your social media. Unpackage this content, just like you and I, David, did. We unpackaged the whole report, but I strongly suggest our realtors take this report and create, social media content surrounding all this information, and do it one bit at a time. Don't unpackage this whole report like you and I did, because it's a lot of information. We're doing this for the industry, right? But if you're talking to clients and to your customers, unpack little sections at a time and create content surrounding little sections at a time. Talk about each driver. Talk about, the average price per market and what's happening and why it's happening, and tie into a lot of this information that's been provided to you. But TREB does a great job providing this information, and I think we as realtors have to unpackage this, have to hold our clients' hands through this. What might seem as normal to you and I will seem completely foreign to some of our consumers. So I think everybody should spend a little bit of time and really go through this information. I mean, if you can tell your customers that on average they're making $11,000 a month by staying in their house or purchasing a house, I mean, that opens up a lot of doors to a lot of different conversations.
Yeah, that's great advice, David. And I agree 100%. And I think you're doing a real service to the industry as a whole by bringing this to your attention. And I know you push it in-house amongst your own agents all the time, make sure they've all got this. But anybody else tuning in from other places, I think that's great advice for them. Like what great marketing material to use, but marketing, but also it's just important information to know about as someone in the industry.
Yeah. And I mean, even something as quoting some of these, politicians or leaders. I mean, Justin Trudeau gave a statement here. It talks about the market. You can take a little excerpt and say, hey, even Justin Trudeau thinks our market's going to continue to appreciate, right? And, you can use some of this stuff to your advantage. But, we have the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We have the Associate Minister of Transportation. We have John Tory. We have Bonnie Crombie, right? And then we have other regions. We have Patrick Brown from Brampton. We have Wayne Emerson from York. So, there's some really good information here. And, if I was actively selling real estate, I'd be taking John Tory and, I'd be putting him on my social media, and I'd be saying, look, even John Tory believes in our real estate, right? Because I mean, there's so much good information here.
Yeah, and different viewpoints from different policymakers, which is important. I tune into American news all the time, and I like to see what's going on. I like to stay informed. So I watch CNN and I'll watch Fox News, and I spend equal time probably with both. So I want to see what the other spectrum is looking at, and just it's amazing how they same day, same lead news stories, but you think they're living completely different worlds, but you like to hear what both sides are saying, so you can sort of make your own decisions of what's going on. But one thing they've both been sharing the last few days is they're both sides are slamming Trudeau, and as they're all paying close attention to what's going on with this freedom convoys and blockades and everything, and both sides of the spectrum are just slamming Trudeau. Like, where is he? And how's he reacting to this, and is he doing enough? And it's really something to see. So it might be one of the unifying things in the US is what's going on in Canada, because both sides are critical of our government right now.
Yeah, and David, I have a strong opinion of this. I mean, we could probably spend a whole episode podcast just talking about that. But the one thing that's really disappointing me is the fact that the policies that the Trudeau government is implementing right now are really diversifying and creating segregation in the two different groups in Canada. And it's we need a leader that's going to come and unite everybody. It's going to unite both opinions, and is going to listen to both sides of the story. Right. And I think Trudeau hasn't done that. He's been really closed-minded when it comes to, the message that these truckers are trying to portray. And he's creating a lot of division. And that's what worries me as a Canadian.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Part of the problem, I think, and this isn't in the defense of Trudeau, it's sort of the opposite, but we haven't had a strong enough opposition. Our democracy works best when we've got strong opposition that can give alternates and push the government to act properly. And we haven't had that. And I think Trudeau sort of takes advantage of that and says, I've got free reign because there's nowhere else for Canadians to go to. And I think that's a problem. I think we need to get a strong opposition in there to either challenge them in the next election, whether it's Trudeau or the next guy. But I think our system works best when there's strong parties, more than one strong party. And I think that's been a problem there. We don't have the proper checks and balances. So Trudeau, in the middle of a crisis right now, he pops his head out, looks around, sees his shadow, and he's gone for 6 weeks. Like, where is he? So that's not what you want in leadership. Yeah. But when he comes out and looks around, he sees, no one's really challenging me. There's nobody here. The Conservatives are a mess right now. They got rid of their own leader. I got all kinds of time. And he's just can put his, can pop back down and go hide. Yeah. It doesn't help us.
I don't think there's ever been a period in Canadian politics where the House of Commons has been so shut down over the last 2 years, right? And that goes to the heart of exactly the point that you're making, is that, there hasn't been debate, hasn't been opposition. It's just, we're going to, suspend today's session. We're suspending tomorrow's session. We're suspending the House and then, that creates a situation where Trudeau is really, governing the country with no checks and balances.
Yeah, and I think it's not good to give anybody free rein and not have those checks and balances. So I think that's something we're struggling with right now at home, and I think that's why I think it gives rise to a movement like this, because we can't. How do you complain to the government in power? Normally, you go to the opposition and say, "Hey, we got some grievances here. They're not doing a good job. We got other," and then you get the opposition to go and argue in Parliament and to put pressure on the government to change certain laws and things like. But right now, who are they going to? There's no opposition to go to. There's no leadership in the opposition, so they're saying, "Screw that. We're going to just go directly to Ottawa and do it ourselves."
Yeah. Well, history is going to remember this moment, David.
Yep.
That's for sure. But lots of great information. Podcast number 30. I think we knocked it out of the park. I'm really happy with, we unlocked a lot of information. And thank you very much for joining us and for staying with us. And I encourage you guys to reach out to David Korman, reach out to myself. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your opinion on the information that we presented, and love to hear some feedback.
Absolutely. We'd appreciate the feedback, any suggestions, comments, whatever. We'll take it to heart and we'll implement it. So bring it on. Absolutely.
David, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure. It was a blast. Stay safe, everybody. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks. Take care.
Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market and dive deep to understand the issues affecting buyers, sellers, investors, and businesses. If you love real estate as much as we do, sit back, relax, and gain an insider's edge to the exciting world of real estate. David Gorski is a broker and the owner of Sutton Summit Realty, a powerhouse brokerage providing guidance to over 180 realtors. And David Korman is a partner at Kormans LLP, a respected law firm specializing in residential and commercial real estate transactions, with offices located in Toronto, Mississauga, and Markham.